was still early in the morning and the sun was just starting to peek behind the trees. Luke and Nora were still just waking up, and they had slept long and hard that night because the day before was the most bizarre Christmas day that Luke and Nora had ever experienced. After getting a mysterious gift from Santa with 2 keys that led to a hatch in the ground in their backyard, they found a cave deep underground that was filled with magical treasures. And not long after they discovered it, they got chased out of that cave by a mean old man named Cornelius, who actually turned out to be Santa's brother. Wow, can you imagine a crazier day than that? When Luke and Nora woke up the next morning, they had almost forgotten about everything that happened the day before until they looked on their nightstands and saw the sword and the necklace they had both escaped from the treasure cave with. And this was not your average sword or necklace. They had magical powers that each of the children had only just begun to discover. As soon as Nora saw the necklace, she grabbed it and jumped out of bed and ran into Luke's room, where Luke was already standing with his sword in his hands. Both kids could remember what happened in the treasure cave the day before, when Luke had swung his sword around and a bolt of lightning blasted out of the end. Nora said, "Hey Luke, I think I've heard of these things. I think you need to hold it in just the right way and say a magical spell, and you can do all kinds of cool things." So she took the sword and said, let me try this out just a second. And she pointed it at their dog, Ollie, and said, "Abracadabra-cadabra-cadine!" And magic blasted out of the wand and then hit their dog, Ollie. And Ollie started to transform into a wolf. A huge wolf. It was like 10 times the size of what Ollie was. And they were like, "Oh no, we turned Ollie into a wolf." But then the wolf just sat there and barked at him. And then he walked up to Luke and Nora and licked them both in the face. It turned out it was the same old Ollie. He was just a wolf now instead of a tiny, cute, furry little dog. And so then Nora thought of another magical spell. Kalaka kulaka kilaka kak! And they blasted another bolt of magic at Ollie, and then it hit him. And this time, he turned into a frog. What? They don't want Ollie to be a frog. They want him to be a dog again. Nora said, "Well, I guess that wasn't the right one. Let's try another one." And they shot one last bolt of magic at Ollie, and then it hit the frog, and then it turned him back into a dog. He was back to normal again. Or so they thought. And they were like, "Oh, thank goodness he's back to normal." We were starting to get nervous there for a minute. So then Ollie walked up to them and was just about to lick both of their faces, but then a fly flew right by, and Ollie's huge, long tongue flew out and caught that fly. It turned out, even though they had turned him back into a dog, he still had that frog's tongue. Oh no, they didn't really finish the job. What were they going to do? When the kids realized they didn't know how to get Ollie back to normal, they decided to ask the only person who could possibly know the answer. Nora said, "Alexa, call Santa." A few moments later, they heard a friendly, familiar voice saying,
"Hello?"
Nora said, "Santa, you have to help us." And the kids took turns explaining everything that had happened the day before and what had happened to Ollie. And Santa said,
"Oh, I'm so sorry, kids. I never meant for you to meet my brother Cornelius. I didn't even realize he was down in the treasure cave behind your house all these years. My brother is a very sad, lonely old man. He isn't mean because he's angry with you. He's mean because he has no friends and he doesn't know how to show kindness. You must be very, very careful with his magical treasure, children. Because of his troubled heart, his magic can only do evil. You cannot use it for good unless you know a very special spell. And Nora, it can only be done with your necklace."
And so Santa told them the spell, and Nora took off her necklace and put it around Ollie's neck, and she said the spell, Zula Kampula Chakula. And just like that, Ollie turned completely back to his normal self. Oh, wow. That was crazy. They were so glad Ollie was back to normal. But then Santa said,
"You must return the treasure at once, children, and remember one very important thing. We cannot make another person be nice, but we can control ourselves. When you return Cornelius's treasure, remember to show him kindness, even if he is not kind to you."
So just like Santa said, Luke and Nora decided to take their magical treasures back down into the hatch to the treasure cave. But before they did, they also decided to draw Cornelius a picture and bring him some cookies. So they walked back to the hatch in their backyard and they opened it up with the key and they crawled down the ladder and walked back into the cave. And as soon as Cornelius saw them, he said,
Well, looky here. I knew you kids would return. How foolish could you kids be to bring this treasure back here? I can only assume you've come back to take more of my treasure, huh? Well, I think both of you should have stayed home, because now you'll never leave this cave again.
And Luke said, "Oh no, Mr. Cornelius, we're not here to take anything. We're here to bring your treasure back. We're sorry we took it yesterday. We were just so scared and we didn't know what else to do. Will you forgive us?" And Cornelius said,
I see. Well, I didn't expect this.
And Nora said, "We also brought you a gift because we're sorry." And Cornelius was so shocked and surprised that he actually started crying.
No one's ever done something so nice for me before, especially after I've been so mean. I think it's me who needs your forgiveness. I'm so sorry, kids.
Now Luke and Nora were the ones who were surprised. Cornelius wasn't nearly as mean as he seemed before. He just needed someone to be nice to him. And then Luke said, "Cornelius, don't you ever feel sad and lonely down here? Don't you ever want to get out and see the world sometime?" And Cornelius said,
Yeah, I suppose so. It has been a long time since I've seen daylight or had a good home-cooked meal.
And Nora said, "Well, you should come to our house sometime. Our mom makes the best home-cooked meals."
Are you serious? You would really have me to your house after I've been so mean to you kids?
And Nora said, "Well, of course, we know you're not really that mean. You just need some friends. You can come to our house." So they invited Cornelius over, and they also called Santa back, and they invited him over too. And Santa and Cornelius both showed up at Luke and Nora's house for dinner. And Santa got to meet his brother again for the first time in so many years. And they hugged and they laughed and they cried and shared old memories of their childhood together. And Cornelius agreed. It was not good for him to be locked away in that cave by himself with all that treasure, because it made him grumpy and miserable. And besides, all the magical treasure in there could probably do a lot of good to help other people, especially if he changed his heart so that the magic actually could be used for good. So he agreed to give away all of his magical treasure to the less fortunate, and everyone he helped became his great friends. And it all happened because Luke and Nora decided to return his treasure and show him what true kindness looked like. Do you ever find yourself wondering when the next episode is going to come out for the Storyland podcast? I know they don't come out as much as we all want them to, but if you want to be the first to know about when the next story is going to drop, all you got to do is follow us on Instagram or Facebook, or just go to storyland.show, and you'll find links to all the different places online where you can listen and watch, and even leave a comment and make suggestions about other story ideas that you might have. Just go to storyland.show Or again, you can follow us on Facebook or Instagram. Just search for Storyland, all one word, podcast. Storyland Podcast, and you should be able to find us there. Thanks again for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.